Today I am spending 5 hours on Lufthansa's European business class. The journey will take us from Tunis, Tunisia to Athens, Greece with a short layover in Frankfurt. Now, many people say that Lufthansa's short-haul premium cabin is nothing more than a blocked middle seat and therefore a bit of a scam. So, should you spend your hard-earned cash or miles on this kind of product? Well, let's find out, shall we? Good morning guys, and welcome back to another flight review. We are in the Tunisian capital of Tunis and I'm currently heading to the airport by taxi. It's a 20-minute drive from the center and the meter came up to 19 dinar. Today we are taking 2 Lufthansa flights, the first one departing at 11:45 am. And here we are, Tunis-Carthage or TUN, the busiest airport in the country of Tunisia. The airport first opened in 1920, but the current facilities date from the early 2000s. Today, TUN attracts around 7 million annual passengers. I didn't have any bags to drop, but I still had to go to the counter because the online check-in didn't work. Fortunately, there was a dedicated business class line and the process took less than 5 minutes. The agent specifically told me that my ticket included lounge access, but since there is no Lufthansa or Star Alliance lounge here, I could go to the Espace Privilège, which is a contract lounge. But more on that later. Security and immigration were relatively quick and I am now in the departure zone. Now, I was very careful with the camera here because in the past, lots of fellow YouTubers shared stories of being told off or even detained for filming inside TUN airport. Luckily, none of that happened to me and I didn't have any problems. Airside, you have to pay in euro because you cannot export Tunisian currency. And of course, everything is pretty overpriced, but I have seen worse. But then I did have lounge access. Or did I? Remember that the check-in agent specifically told me that I could go to the Espace Privilège. However, when I got there, the guy at the reception suddenly decided that I didn't have lounge access because I was traveling on an award ticket. Now, for anyone flying Lufthansa, this is complete BS. Award flights do include lounge access. I then asked him to call someone at Lufthansa, but he was too lazy to do that. Most Tunisians are incredibly friendly and helpful, but this guy was the exact opposite. Piss poor customer service. Anyhow, I left the lounge and contacted Lufthansa myself. And their reply was very simple. Of course you have lounge access, just go back and show them your ticket. And if they don't let you enter, have them call the Lufthansa office at Tunis Airport. Unfortunately for me, their reply came about 2 hours after I contacted them, which was exactly 3 minutes before boarding. So yeah, no point returning to that lounge. Thank you, incompetent receptionist. Luckily, I could go to the lounge in Frankfurt later. And here's my ride to Germany, an 8-year-old Airbus A320-200. As a business class passenger, you are first in line, but so are families with children, and there were many of those, so boarding ended up taking quite a while. Anyhow, my seat on this leg is 3A. Lufthansa's European business class consists of 7 rows separated from the rest by some good old curtains. The seats are essentially the same as in economy, but you do get a blocked middle seat and a bit more legroom. You also get a standard tray table, a seat back pocket, and a coat hook. USB ports or power plugs are not present. So yeah, this product is pretty mediocre considering the price tag, but it has become standard in Europe, so it is what it is, I guess. There was no pre-departure drink, and due to the inefficient boarding process, we departed with a half-hour delay.
Ziehen Sie eine der Masken ganz sicher runter, um den Sauerstofflos zu starten. Drücken Sie dann eine der Masken komplett auf Mund und Nase und streichen Sie das elastische Band ein über den Kopf. Helfen Sie bitte Personen und auch Kindern, die Hilfe und Unterstützung benötigen. If there is loss in cabin pressure, oxygen masks will drop from the panel above you. Pull one mask down fully to start the flow of oxygen. Then cover your mouth and nose with the oxygen mask.
Right, so far the experience hasn't been very business or class, but all of that is about to change because the food on this flight was excellent. For lunch they served prawns with quinoa as well as a dessert cake. The quality and taste were fantastic, and I complemented this with some German sparkling wine or Sekt. It is very similar to champagne, but they can't call it that because it's not French. There is no in-flight entertainment, but we got some lovely views over Sardinia and Corsica. I also wanted to mention that the crew and service on this flight were top-notch. With Lufthansa, the service can be hit or miss, but on this journey, the FAs were superb. So yeah, not really a full-on business class experience, but the soft product at least somewhat compensates for the, let's face it, massive deficiencies of the hard product. We landed in Frankfurt with a delay of 15 minutes at 3:30 p.m. I now had about 90 minutes to enter the Schengen zone, go through security and get to my next gate. Luckily, I didn't have to change terminals. Transit security took quite a while, and I was selected for a random bag search. nothing too special, but it did end up costing me some time in the lounge. Talking about lounges, I was in the Schengen zone of Terminal 1 and I had the choice between 3 different Lufthansa lounges. I opted for the Panorama lounge, which has a decent selection of food, drinks, a smoking room, and also plenty of quiet spaces to get some work done. I didn't have that much time here, so I drank a cold beer and did some plane spotting. It was then time to board the second flight, which was operated by a 16-year-old Airbus A321. I am sitting in 4 Foxtrot and the product is exactly the same as on the first leg. A blocked middle seat, a few curtains and not much else. On a more positive note, this flight departed bang on time. So, did the service and catering shine again? The answer is a resounding yes. First, we got a hot towel, which is quite rare on European flights, and then they served an absolute feast. I got the steak, which came with something called Spätzle, and then they added a tuna and potato starter. Both dishes were succulent. You can criticize Lufthansa's hard product as much as you like, but you cannot fault this kind of catering on a 2.5-hour flight. You can purchase Wi-Fi plans on Lufthansa, but you can also access their in-flight app for free. There isn't much on there though, just a few magazines and some flight stats. The loo was spotless and there were some standard amenities. Overall, the service on both flights was excellent and definitely a major upgrade compared to economy. Talking about Lufthansa economy, if you want to know what that experience is like, I have a video covering the coach product on 2 different planes. We landed 10 minutes early at exactly 9 p.m. So, how much did I pay for this? Well, as I already mentioned, this was an award ticket and I paid 12,900 Lufthansa miles plus 154 euros in taxes and fees. This was a fantastic deal because it was cheaper than economy, which would have cost around 200 euros. Now, the cash price to fly business class from Tunis to Athens was almost 700 euros, which is pretty outrageous in any situation. So, should you fly Lufthansa Euro business? Well, I wouldn't pay top dollar for it, but if you can find a good award flight, why not? Also, you can bring 2 checked bags and 2 carry-ons with a combined weight of 80 kilos. And that is a lot. I would never need that much luggage, but maybe somebody else does. To conclude, Lufthansa Euro business isn't a scam because it's certainly better than economy, but not 3 or 4 times better. So use your miles if you can. Thanks for watching.